Initially coming to the hospital, they told us not to bring a car seat because he wasn't going to make it home.
But Leo Fazio did make it home, and the almost 4-year-old is thriving at home. We shared his story yesterday as part of our series highlighting the challenges facing those with disabilities and their families.
So today we wrap up that series by telling you about Christopher Garcia. Christopher is a 16-year-old from Newcastle with cerebral palsy. Now, since the day he was born, his mother Nancy has been fighting for her son to be able to access basic health care needs. She's made progress, but the fight is nowhere near over. Here's Delmarva Life's Katie Zurilli.
Ay, qué guapo niño. Hola.
Christopher Garcia lights up at the sweet sounds of his mother's soothing voice. This 16-year-old doesn't let a diagnosis keep him from cracking a smile.
Christopher is my son. Christopher has cerebral palsy.
As you might imagine, no one knows Christopher quite like his mother, Nancy. But that's not been easy. It's taken endless effort.
Christopher was born at 29 weeks. He didn't have an immune system to protect him. Christopher ended up having a staph infection 2 weeks into being in intensive care. And from that staph infection, later on, we were told that Christopher was resuscitated from being completely coated. And while he was resuscitated, he had a lack of oxygen to the brain.
Christopher went home from the hospital with multiple complications. Nancy says at the time she was having difficulty understanding what was going on because of the way it was being explained.
So even though they're telling us everything and laying everything out for us, if we don't understand the terminology and that high-rated language, it means nothing to us.
It wasn't until she picked up an old book on cerebral palsy that she finally figured it out.
The book said that children that had that swallowed air were children that had significant brain damage. And then that's when the pieces started to kind of get together, and I was starting to understand that what I was dealing with a child that wasn't walking, wasn't holding a bottle, wasn't turning, wasn't crawling.
Even though she then developed the necessary knowledge, it didn't make up for the fact that for the first 2 years of his life, Christopher didn't have what he needed.
The ideal thing would have been that Christopher would have walked out with skilled care nursing. That was what Christopher needed, and that's what he didn't get. And because of that, we had a lot of hardships.
As if that wasn't enough, Nancy had another obstacle standing in her opposition.
I'm also Hispanic, so I know that when there is a language barrier, it is much more difficult for families to get the things that they need. So I'm an advocate for access to language.
The family found another barrier when it comes to Christopher qualifying for Social Security.
A lot of people assume that because you have a disability, that you automatically qualify for Social Security and that you get food stamps and you get all kinds of government supplements. And that is not true. That is true for families who live below poverty.
Through another mother's advice, Nancy was able to get Christopher the access to health care he needs. Even now, though, there are challenges. Christopher has home nurses, but when there are open shifts, that falls on his mother.
It's figuring out, do I need to find somebody to cover me at work? Will I be missing another day of work?
It's a battle she's fought for almost 17 years. But Nancy says she's not angry. She channels that energy into creating change.
See where we can help other individuals who are younger, especially like families who are getting new diagnoses, trying to help them figure out a way to get the things that they need in a more timely manner.
Thanks to the help of the Delaware Developmental Disabilities Council, she was able to collect information, provide it to the state, and the state agreed to create a program where parents are paid to take care of medically fragile children when there's no nursing available.
It will help because parents can be employed, children will be staffed, and hopefully parents will not go through the hardship, because when you do have somebody fragile like Christopher, and I don't mean to say that they're a lot of work, but they need a lot of skilled care.
People like Christopher are also just that, people. She wants that known too.
Sometimes I ask him, I'm like, Christopher, do you love me? I'm like, if you love me, can you please blink? And he'll blink. So he's well aware of his environment. And I do tell people, never assume that because he can't verbally say something that it doesn't mean that he's not aware. He's very aware. And I think that's how we treat everybody, and Christopher nonetheless.
Because when you interact with this tender teen, there's both a lot to learn and a lot to love.
Are you happy? Can you blink for yes? Can you blink? Are you happy? Yes, you are.
Nancy is hoping that one day communities will be more prepared for folks with disabilities, i.e., having accessible bathrooms and bigger changing tables. And she's also hoping to see schools adjust their programs a little bit so that Christopher can attend public schools as well.
Oh,
Isn't that
that'd
great?
be nice. That's great. We've shared so many incredible stories this week as part of Disability Pride Month. And if you'd like to rewatch them, and might we suggest you do just that, it's a happy dose of inspiration. All you need to do is go to delmartalife.com.